Sportswrap Overtime. Welcome in to another edition of the show. Two-man team today. Craig Loper, James Catato on the board. We are here for another episode of OT. It's the summertime, James, and we're going to do a little hodgepodge of kind of sports. We were kind of talking in the office, and we wanted to just kind of like, I guess, portray or, talk about the time of year and then let that show kind of reflect that, because we're in the doldrums of July here, and it's the time of year in the sports world, in the sports media world, where this is the slowest month of the year. Yep. So when you look up at any given sports media channel or whatever, or internet, it's a very slow time, and it's we just kind of wanted to reflect that by kind of doing a hodgepodge of stuff. We have some stuff to talk about. But what do you think about July? I mean, it's just kind of a slow time.
Kind of all over the place. Well, it's so interesting, right? Because when I got out of college and I worked in Buffalo, it was like I was doing news too. So things didn't really feel slow for me. And then the Bill season started and everything was kicking off, right? So then when I moved here and I started working in sports full time for the first time, and then in July, it was, like Brian was like, what? Maybe go over here and do this thing at CNU, and they're out of season, right? And like, then we'll talk about the PGA Tour. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, who's local, right? And it's kind of hard sometimes to find those stories and have easily accessible highlights and clips and moments. You're seeing it, like you said, on the national stage with ESPN right now. Yeah. They're, Scott Van Pelt is taking time
Everybody's off. All the 18
Stephen
is off. Everybody's off.
Right. Is Greeny off?
I think he's off.
Is Greeny off?
I watch a lot. I haven't seen him on. I watch Get Up pretty consistently. I've never seen him.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, so it's a different world. Yeah. At least in the month of July. Obviously, when training camp starts up at the end of the month, that'll kind of be a high for maybe a week or two, and then we're slow for maybe another week in August, and then we start to kick to football, and that's when things start to pick up.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like you said, looking around the landscape locally, this is the time of year as a local sports office in the 757. This is a time of year we try to get to stories that we really don't have the time to in certain other times of year. Yeah. Like, whether it's the Little League baseball stories, those are going on right now. Whether it's a unique story, maybe it's last year you did the cornhole story.
That was fun.
Trying to get in touch with some jiu-jitsu people out in Virginia Beach currently, trying to work that connection for a great story out there on an instructor. So it's kind of like the hodgepodge of summer where we got to reach, basically how we say it in the business is like, some days, like in the fall, the show writes itself. Like we know we're going to talk about Commanders football. We know we're going to talk about ODU. We know we're going to talk about Norfolk State. We're going to talk about Hampton, William & Mary, like all the football teams, the local, high school, all that type of stuff. Player of the week type stories. And the show writes itself. At this time of year, the show does not write itself. We got to kind of fish and figure it out. The one thing that does sort of get us through, at least provides a decent foundation in the summertime, is baseball, right? Major League Baseball. And here, in the 757, we have the AAA affiliate, the Norfolk Tide. So between the Orioles and the Tides, that's what we're going to kind of talk about first. That kind of leads us off most days in the summertime, if we don't have something like hyper local to get to. And speaking of the Orioles, it is the dog days of summer right now. Just at the time of this recording, they are 40 wins, 50 losses on the year, 12.5 games back in the AL East for the lead. Fourth worst ERA in baseball. They've given up 435 runs this year. They are dead last in the AL East. So it hasn't been a good first half for them. No. A lot of injuries in the first half. A lot of
injuries, especially at the catcher position. Yeah. Too. The catcher position, right? You thought going into this year, you would hope Adley would take another step. He kind of hasn't taken a step and at least in the right direction.
Up and down, and then got hurt.
Up and down, and then Maverick Hanley comes in, that gnarly concussion that he had against the Yankees where Jazz Chisholm ran into him. Yeah. Then you turn to Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez is projected to be out for 8 to 10 weeks, right? So at the catcher position, now you're kind of like, what are we doing here at the catcher position?
They're signing guys I've never heard of. And again, I'm not some baseball connoisseur, know every guy on the depth chart, but like they're signing guys where it's like the main guy you want to see as a fan, I guess, if you root for that, is like you want to see Basayo up there, but they're not going to start his pro clock.
He's
or whatever.
So young.
He's super young. I mean, they'd rather kind of have a stopgap until I guess Adley or Gary or Maverick gets back.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing, too, and I want to talk about Jackson in a little bit here, because I think Jackson is one of the highlights of the season so far for Baltimore. But I think that when you talk about a guy like Samuel Basayo, I've been talking to the manager of the Tides, the new manager of the Tides, Tim Federowicz, a little bit, and when you hear the stories about what's going on in the big league club when referencing Samuel Basayo, and then down in AAA. And it's kind of like, we don't want to rush him.
Yeah.
Because he's so young and his game is still very raw.
Yeah.
Like, he can hit the baseball super well.
Yeah.
You see he has a ton of highlights out at first base and at catcher. So he's gunning dudes down from the plate to second base when they're trying to steal, or he's making web gems and he's making diving grabs at first base. He's definitely the highlight of the Tides this year, being the #1 overall prospect in the Orioles organization. No need to rush him. Because you got, you'll figure it out at the catcher position. And you don't need another bat. You don't need another bat. It's just the bats that they currently have to figure it out.
Yeah, fan bases want to always rush kind of the prospects coming up through the pipeline. Everybody else is like, let's just exercise some patience here, and I think that's the right way to do it. You mentioned Jackson Holliday. He's a guy that moved up really fast, honestly. And then but what happened initially, he moved up really fast through the system, got the call last year, struggled, got sent back down, or whatever it was 2 years ago at this point.
He went up fast.
He went up fast, but then he got sent back down because he was struggling. At one point he was really, really in a rough spot. But I said this last night in the office to Brian, as he in the game last night, he had a home run and another 2 RBIs or something like that. Baseball is a game of reps, and Jackson's really young. He's 21, and it's like, what you need in baseball, you need ABs. You need ABs to just see big league pitching consistently. And for whatever reason, this year has clicked for Jackson in a way that you want to see as a former #1 overall pick. 12 home runs, again, at the time we're recording this. This year, bat leadoff, showing opposite field power.
And that was a big thing last year. I remember talking about that when he got sent back down originally to Norfolk after the first stint. I remember highlighting his spray chart from the major leagues to then back to the Tides and the second stint with the Tides. And he was pulling
pulling
60% of his hits. Whether they were, out or not.
Right.
And then I think it was only like 13 or 12% were going opposite field to left field.
Right.
And then it was way more even of a split when he came back down to Norfolk. Obviously, you're comparing AAA to Major League Baseball, right? But it was like 33, 40, 30, right? Like it was high 20s or something. So he's a way more balanced hitter. I mean, it helps when you're down. And I remember when this story kind of broke and made a little bit of headline was when earlier this year he was not off to the hottest start. And then Matt Holliday, his father, saw something on TV and texted him about it. And then he immediately started to hit the ball a little bit better. And it was just a tweak that his dad saw on TV. You would think that with the multiple hitting coaches that the Baltimore Orioles have, they get paid a lot of money every year.
Yeah, baseball's a funky game, man. Sometimes it does. It takes like a visual cue or something for guys to hear and then feel it, and they realize it's like that's a real thing in sports. Kind of going to go off topic a little bit, I guess. One thing that always stood out to me, and I always have a unique story with this. When I was I used to do Olympic weightlifting in high school, right? And so I used to do snatch, clean and jerk, all these type of Olympic lifts. And I had a coach in high school, and I used to just try to basically, once the weight got heavier, you try to like really just, you can no longer rely on just strength, right? And so I had a coach named Coach Miller, and he said something to me one time when we were doing jerk, which is basically taking a bar and putting it above your head. And he said something to me, and he said, and it changed just kind of the way I thought about the movement, was like, think about dropping under the bar, don't think about pushing it up.
Right.
And when he said that, like, I was like, oh my God, that's a good way to think. Like, it turned something on in my brain. And then as he said that, and I thought about that more often, I was able to do heavier weight because I was no longer trying to just will the bar up above my head. I was thinking about an initial sort of surge of momentum and then just dropping under it as fast as I can. And that changed it. So relating to the holiday things, nothing like that. Baseball is a different sport, obviously, but sometimes you just hear something and then it starts clicking. So maybe that's what it was, for him. Orioles as a team, though, pitching, still the question mark.
Big question
When I
mark.
watch the Orioles any given night, because we're back here every night putting the show together, and we got 6 TVs in the office. Orioles is always on when they're playing. It's like some days I feel like they're like they can make a run, like they're right there, like they got.
Well, talent-wise, they are all the way there.
But sometimes it's just like the games are spotty, they're inconsistent, the pitching's up. When they get a solid pitching performance, and then you have the offense to back it up, like some run support, I feel like and mark my words. Don't mark my words. Don't quote me, but like. I feel like they have a chance in the second half. I'm probably more optimistic on the Orioles than most people. I feel like in the second half they could turn something around.
They had
baseball, something about that All-Star break. We've seen it in the past where teams turn it on.
Yeah.
I mean, the Washington Nationals World Series title year. I don't know how they were below 500. I don't know how many games in the first half, and all of a sudden it was like clicked in the second half.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you go outside of baseball, I think a great example was when the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup a couple of years ago, and they had the worst record in the league in January.
Right.
Turned it all the way around, stuck into the playoffs.
Crazy.
Had a hot goaltender and won the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's sports, you know? And baseball is a long season.
It's so long.
And the other piece to it too is it's in a division where really nobody wants to claim it right now. Like at one point, the Yankees were kind of running away with the division. And as of late, since the Red Sox series, so at the time of recording this, right? So they played the Red Sox almost 30 games ago. So at that point, what is that probably?
You talking about the Yankees or the Orioles?
The Yankees. I'm talking about the Yankees.
Yeah.
Since they played the Red Sox, so that's almost 30 games ago.
They lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, but they lost. They've only won 10 of 27 since the Red Sox series. So at the time of recording this, so about
they're 3 games back of the Blue Jays in first place right now,
which is crazy because I mean that Blue Jays series was like it felt like it was just
Toronto's 9-1 in the last 10 games. Yankees are 3-7. Rays are 3-7 in their last 10. Red Sox 8-2 in their last 10. Orioles. So what you said about no one really wants to claim this division.
No.
But, something will turn at the All-Star break and, and it will get more clear quickly. Speaking of the All-Star break, Ryan O'Hearn, designated hitter for the American League. Big honor, for him.
And then obviously Jackson being a finalist, that means, and you obviously don't hope this happens, but that means if somebody gets hurt, he's going to slide in there probably.
They've been slowly putting out the alternates. And it's been something where you're just kind of like trying to, who knows, maybe he gets in. But, Orioles, we'll see what happens. You got to get healthy and you got to just put it together more consistently than they have been. Obviously, they let Brandon Hyde go, earlier this year.
Yep.
And maybe the guys rally, for the new guys. So that is the Orioles and Tides. Like I said, with the general talking point, how we fill the show any given day, like with Sportswrap. So if you ever watch us on TV every night at 10:45 on Fox 43, we do a 15-minute local sports show. It's
we do
one of the few local sports shows in the country where we fill 15 minutes like a night. So in television, everything's about time, right? We have to fill the time, right? Even for this podcast, we have to fill the time. So we go in every day, 15-minute show. It's about 7 minutes, 45 seconds of content. So how we fill the show every day, I think is always interesting because it is this hodgepodge where on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, Brian and James and I, we all work together. We're fully staffed on those days. And we all kind of get in and it's kind of like, what is it, a brainstorm, what we've seen in the morning on Twitter, scrolling. We know the Orioles are playing. We know the Tides are most likely playing. So that's 2 things that we slot in the show immediately. And the rest is kind of like, okay, what do you got? We just kind of talk about it. Yesterday for you, it was Hampton University athletic department making a big announcement about the men's basketball program.
Yep.
You went up there for that. But filling the show, some days you get in, you're like, I don't know if I could do 7:45 sports today.
Yeah.
But we got to make it happen no matter what. I mean, I talked about EA Sports College Football 26, the video game, to end my show last night. That was 30 seconds, so it's interesting.
Listen, Brian made the point when I first got here, and I think it holds true to this day. In the decades that the Sportswrap has been around and the 15-minute format that we've had has been around, Brian has always said, we've never not figured it out.
Right.
And we do have a saying sometimes, we'll come in and the first thing we'll say, if it's a really slow content day, is it a Nats day?
Yeah, it's a Nats day. Yeah.
I mean, because obviously we serve primarily with the Tides being in town, the Orioles, right? But if we really are looking for content and the Nats played, obviously the Nats are not
Washington
fantastic.
Nationals.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. They're not fantastic.
Yeah.
But if we got to fill time, we got to fill time.
Yeah, the Nats day, it's like when we need that 40 seconds of highlights, maybe James Wood crushes a homer or something, and they're in a rough spot, obviously.
Very rough.
Just fired the manager and the GM this past week. So
clean house.
Yeah, cleaning house right there. Okay, we're going to keep going here. Let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, though, we're talking NFL because the Commanders put out a jersey unveil that had Twitter buzzing recently. We're coming back on Sportswrap Overtime. All right, welcome back to Sportswrap Overtime. We are continuing on. I got this written down. Topic number 2. The Washington Commanders unveiling some new uniforms recently, and they are a tribute to the Super Bowl era of the team. Check it out. Look at the burgundy and gold, the stripe on the helmet, the gold detail around the burgundy numbers. Again, these are called the Super Bowl era uniforms. They are alternate uniforms. These are not uniforms they are going to be wearing each week, or they have the option to wear each week. This is an alternate uniform that is slated to be, they're going to wear it 3 times during the 2025 season. And first impression is crispy.
Wow.
Crispy. I mean, man.
Yeah.
Takes you back to a time.
It takes you back to a time. You know, I saw JP Finley up in NBC 4 in Washington say, it feels like you're seeing an old friend again for the first time in a long time, where they don't exactly look the same, but you can recognize them immediately.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate the fact that they're, you know, kind of paying an homage here to the Super Bowl era when they were dominant in the NFL and were a brand. Obviously, there is a base out there who wants to see the old logo come back, but you are going to have that, and you cannot please everybody.
Yeah,
you know?
I think the new ownership group has done a great job of paying tribute to the past, without, you know, going back and changing the name or doing this whole rebrand and everything. So this is another way to pay homage to the past. Obviously, the 3 Super Bowls in Washington franchise history: 1982, 1987, 1991. Joe Gibbs and all his different quarterbacks and teams that he was able to assemble.
Mark Rippon.
Yeah, man. And Doug Williams, obviously the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. But these were the jerseys they were wearing. You know, not the, you know, very similar. The details.
Very similar.
And the way they look with those gold accents. So
now I want to see a red one.
Yeah.
I want to see a red one.
Off the top of my head, they're going to wear them week 9 against the Seahawks. That's a Sunday night game on NBC. I think the other one was week 13 against the Broncos. Also another Sunday night game.
I want to see in that matchup, I want to see these jerseys with the Broncos throwback orange jerseys.
Yeah, that would be an elite jersey matchup. I mean, that looks the pictures that would come out of that would be crazy.
Crisp.
Bobby Wagner here, Jaden Daniels, I think that's Jeremy Reeves there.
Yeah, Jeremy Reeves. And Jeremy Reeves put it out on social media and kind of put feelers out the day of the announcement. And
did he?
Fans overall were like eating it up.
Oh yeah,
pretty nice,
as they should.
The merch that you're going to be able to get out of this too is going to be pretty nice.
I saw in the press release it says the merch drops late September.
Yeah. Oh, and Jane Daniels' mom put it out there too.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Got it.
She put it out there too.
Yeah, late September. It said you can start getting jerseys and stuff. But that stuff's going to sell like hotcakes. Commanders camp starts on July 23rd. I think that's the date. So there will be an interesting time. You know, this team is interesting to say the least. You know, one of the more intriguing teams in the NFL. Like, there's a reason they're playing a lot of primetime games this year. Coming off the NFC Championship game appearance, Jaden Daniels heading into year 2. Offseason big name additions: Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil, Marshawn Lattimore comes back healthy. We've seen some stuff from OTAs here that we've got sent from our DC affiliate up there. But you know, what do you believe in the sophomore slump, James? Is that a real thing for quarterbacks?
It's totally possible. Yeah. I mean, because nobody thought that the Commanders were going to be as nearly as good. I mean, there were people that did not say that the Commanders were going to or said the Commanders were going to miss the playoffs.
Right.
Fully. Yeah. You know, so I mean,
I don't think anybody expected them to make the playoffs last year.
Or let alone the NFC Championship game. You know, so credit to Dan Quinn, credit to Cliff Kingsbury, credit to Joe Witt Jr., the entire really staff, and then the guys who came in who were vets that were pretty much written off, like the Austin Ecklers, the Zach Ertz, the Bobby Wagners. I don't know if Bobby Wagner was written off.
I think he was,
but he's just old, you know, or older for the NFL.
Yeah. When you say old in sports, it's above 30.
But you just said it in the office, and I think it's a fantastic point. Is we were looking at the roster, and you said, man, sophomore slump is so possible because you look at the guys on this team and they're all old for football. Yeah. You know,
they got a handful of veterans that are, you know, Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner, 2 leaders of this team, are in the twilight of their career. Laramie Tunsil still in his prime. Marshawn Lattimore, a little bit older, has had some question marks. Deebo Samuel, there's a reason he's been injury riddled recently. He is getting older. We looked it up. He's 29.
He's 29.
Right.
So he and Terry are the same age.
Yeah, it's not old, but it's more of his injury history. So, you know, I'm not predicting regression or anything like that. I think it's totally possible.
It's possible.
But if Jaden's a superstar that he is, like, you know, then I think this team will be fine. You know, you think back to like Patrick Mahomes, his first year as a starter, 2018, right?
Yeah.
50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, league MVP. Well, in 2019, he probably came back to earth a little bit. If we were to look at his numbers, like,
he was still excellent.
He was still great, obviously, still great. But like,
this past season, you could argue was the worst season of his career, and it was still excellent.
It was still great. Yeah,
you know,
it's just a level.
I think Jaden, and you talked about the sophomore slump. We saw it in C.J. Stroud.
Correct.
But even CJ was not bad.
No.
I think if you took
They
the
made the
sophomore
playoffs.
year that CJ had
Yeah.
and just put it onto his rookie season, a lot of people would have looked at that and said, very successful rookie
Yeah.
season for CJ Stroud and the Houston
sure.
Texans.
For sure.
You know, so if Jaden takes a back step, the other piece you got to look at too, you know, Tunsil's going to be a really beneficial piece for him.
Yep.
And being able to he's his rear side blocker.
Yeah, left side,
Yeah.
left tackle, and then Josh Connerly Jr., the first round pick out of Oregon, will play probably right tackle.
Yeah, so I mean that's great, and I think that allows Jaden a little bit more time in the pocket. The one thing that I like the most, and I hate comparing Robert Griffin III to Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, they don't. Nobody likes that.
But you know what I will say is I think Cliff Kingsbury has made a concerted effort to not give designed run plays to Jaden Daniels because he has such a talented arm.
Yeah.
We didn't see Jaden run the ball last year unless he absolutely had to.
Correct. Yeah. Some of those 4th and 1s, they kind of designed, they drew it up, but not some consistent read option, pistol formation, sending them into a bunch of guys. Now, Jaden, in my opinion, needs to do a better job of getting out of bounds and not taking hits, right?
Yeah.
I think that will hopefully get better in year 2. Because naturally, his game is when it breaks down, he can scramble. It's just a matter of being smart, sliding, and getting out of bounds.
But my entire point being when you talk about the potential of a sophomore slump is I expect other guys to also take steps alongside of Jaden on the offense, like Brian Robinson Jr. I think he's primed to have a great year this year. Hopefully, if he can stay healthy too, that's a big if.
They need him.
But I think Eckler, the way that he played last year, kind of took a big load off of Brian Robinson, a lot of pressure off of Brian Robinson. I think that you would expect somebody like a Luke McCaffrey to take a step this year at the wide receiver role, and now especially because you have Terry, or at least you're expected to have Terry. You have Debo to kind of take that pressure off now in the slot.
Yep.
So now you can allow your guys like Ben Sinnott at tight end and Luke McCaffrey at wide receiver, other dudes that are in that room to hopefully take that pressure off. I think you're hoping for depth in this Commanders team to kind of take a little bit of a leap this year.
Yeah, the guy who caught the Hail Mary against the Bears, his name is slipping me.
Brown. Noah Brown.
Noah Brown, thank you. I was about to call him De'Ami Brown, and I was like, no, that's not. He's out of there.
Yeah.
Noah Brown, like I think he got injured at the end of the year. I don't know if he's back. We have to figure that out. I think Noah Brown's back. But there's a lot of potential with this team. I'm starting to watch the quarterback documentary.
Yeah.
So it's Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Kirk Cousins getting profiled in this Netflix documentary.
Kirk again.
Yeah, Kirk again. Yeah, he signed up for it, so I guess they like it. And Joe Burrow is featured in there, and they show the Commanders game in Cincinnati last year, which the Commanders won 38-33.
It's a great game.
Great game. Daniels threw a beautiful touchdown to Terry McLaurin to basically win the game, and Joe Burrow in the documentary is like, yeah, that's Jaden's kind of coming out party on us. And it was, because it was a standalone Sunday night game or something, and it was crazy. It was down to the wire, back and forth, and Jaden went nuts, and that dime to Terry up the sideline sealed the game. It was wild.
It was Washington's first Sunday night football game.
Was that as a Sunday night game?
And I think it was Monday night football.
It might have been a Monday night game.
I think it was Washington's first Monday night game in like 2 years or something. It had been a long time since Washington had a Monday night game.
Right.
And it was fireworks. And I remember that game. I was sitting at home watching that game, and I think the canon moment that sticks out into my head was after that throw, that play of Daniels to McLaurin right in the back of the end zone, corner of the end zone.
Right.
McLaurin runs, and just Dan Quinn jumps into him, and they have an embrace.
Right.
They jump into each other.
Right.
And I think that was the moment for me where I looked at the Commanders and I was like, oh, this is a really tight-knit group.
Yeah.
This is a group that really enjoys playing with each other.
Yeah, they talk about that. Dan Quinn talks about that a lot. That's a real thing. And I think it's, sometimes you think it's lip service from coaches, but this team, I believe in Dan Quinn, and I believe sort of those sentiments that he talks to us about. Like, they're not going to tell us everything, but I believe he does believe in the brotherhood, brotherhood of a team, so to speak, and guys being selfless and playing for each other. That's really, really evident with this team. So very good on Dan Quinn. We were talking about sports documentaries, James. I mentioned it. We're going to take a break, but our third topic, as we continue this hodgepodge of an episode, is sports documentaries and sort of summertime sports content to watch. And I'm going to go through sort of some list of, we'll call it a top 5, top 10 of favorite sports documentaries that I've ever seen. And James is going to have to just listen up for this one. But we're coming right back on Sportswrap Overtime with that. All right, we're back on Sportswrap Overtime. Again, hodgepodge of an episode. And our next topic is kind of unique. James is going to kind of hear me on this one. We're talking about summertime sports watches, favorite sports documentaries. Full disclosure, James, you are not a big documentary guy.
I'm not massive into it.
Right.
But I will say that I can hang a little bit in the conversation for sure.
Right.
Like I was looking just to refresh my memory here because the one thing that I will say is I don't sit down and watch a ton of TV. And the one reason, and you might be listening, you might be like, what? And I think a lot of it is because we work in the space.
Correct.
Right. And so
I think that's fair.
It's like I watch a lot of sports, live sports. Yeah. Right. I'm all in on that. But I think when it comes to just like sitting down and watching TV, when you're staring at, we have 6 TV screens up in the sports office. It's almost like overstimulation to a degree.
It is.
And when we get home, our shift is, anywhere from 11 to midnight. We'll get home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, maybe throw on a little bit of YouTube and just go to bed, man.
Yeah. It kind of depends on the mood. I definitely have to get the energy for it. But I am I watch a lot of shows, fiction, nonfiction. I watch documentaries of all sorts, all subjects, but sports documentaries I watch a lot of. So I'm going to kind of just get into a list.
I will say, though, before we dive in, I got to give you, because I'm going to hand you the reins.
Yeah, right.
But I'm going to give you my favorite of all time.
Okay.
My favorite 30 for 30 of all time that I've gone back to multiple times is You Don't Know Bo.
Yeah, great one. That's on my list.
Is that on the list?
For sure.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely on my list. You Don't Know Bo is a great one. That probably came out 10 years ago at this point. How much time's passed? But I got a list on my phone, so that's why I'm going to be staring at my phone.
I'm flipping the camera to Craig.
Yeah, let me just kind of go over some stuff. This is in no particular order. Now, 30 for 30 is kind of a sports brand that ESPN created in 2009. I was a freshman in college, and I vividly remember it because I know exactly when it first started. I went home that night and watched the first 30 for 30 live on TV. It was the Miami documentary on the Miami Hurricanes of the 80s, and I was like so excited because it was just something different. It was something fresh. It was 2009, but it's been decades and decades now, what's felt like of iterations of it. So as I go through sort of this, I'm going to go kind of top of the head list, and then I'm going to go through this list I have in front of me. So starting off the top of my head, the Miami documentaries, the U Part 1 and Part 2, unbelievable. Definitely top 5. Easily top 5. They were so well done. Those Miami teams in the 80s and the early 2000s were legendary. The characters, the swag, the jerseys, the everything, like the fan base, everything that went into that. They played with swagger. They hit you in the mouth. They talk crap. It was a lot. So those were great ones. Low-key second favorite one, really, in my opinion, is the Fab Five documentary on the Michigan Wolverines in the early 90s. Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Chris Webber, Jimmy King, and Ray, I forget his last name, Ray something, I cannot remember. And that was a super well done. What was cool about that, and the reason why I like a lot of sports documentaries, I like the production value of it. I like to see how they create these stories. So what was cool about the Fab Five is it's one documentary, call it 2 hours, but it's broken up into 5 parts. Yeah. So Fab Five, 5 parts, and at each part they sort of talk about how these guys, these young group of freshmen from different parts of the country, kind of came in at this time in Ann Arbor, Michigan, big brand. No freshmen were really playing in college basketball, and then all of a sudden 5 of them were starting. And when the head coach made that decision, the national headlines that it created was like 5 freshmen starting in a college basketball game and winning, and how they won, and the swag. In the amount of, they talk crap to their opponent. They wore black socks. They wore black shoes. They kind of had bald heads as 18-year-old kids. Couple that with like the birth of hip hop in the early 90s to the world, like being introduced to the world. Yeah. It's like so good. And they couple it all together and they end it. I go back to watch this powerful scene at the end, like once a year. They have this really powerful scene where they kind of they ask the Fab Five, they ask these guys what the legacy is. Because these guys, although they were super talented, they never won a national title. They lost back-to-back national titles. And that's sort of the legacy from the outside. And they kind of each break down their own legacy. And then the coach, Steve Fisher, breaks down his legacy. And they have this good track playing underneath it. And the shots are incredible. It's just production value for what we do. I watch a lot of them for that. Okay. Sleeper one, Pony Express. SMU documentary and then SMU teams in the early 80s, Eric Dickerson, Craig James. They do a good job of interviewing a lot of local sports journalists, a lot of newspaper guys from back in the day. And that's why I like that one, because you get the players, historical perspective of people that were covering it. You get these it talks about boosters and NIL. Before NIL, like SMU was doing that in 1982. But it was $100,000 handshakes. Right. And Eric Dickerson getting a car from Texas A&M, like a gold Trans Am. And it's like they talk about recruiting these kids and then going on probation and then ultimately the death penalty. I didn't know about that story. I grew born in 1991, so I didn't know about that story. So when I went back and watched that documentary, and that's another thing that makes a documentary that I enjoy watching, I enjoy finding or stumbling on a documentary that I had no clue like what happened, like or anything like that. So Pony Express, very good. Run Ricky Run, great 30 for 30 on Ricky Williams and sort of his mental battle with himself and playing a warrior sport, but he's like a shaman inside himself. He just wants peace and tranquility, and he turns to marijuana and all this type of stuff, and how the world reacts to it. Very, very good. The Best That Never Was, Marcus Dupree, a star freshman at Oklahoma in like 1982. Some stuff forced him out of the program, and he kind of never got the ship righted, but he ended up in the NFL for a couple years, and he was like the ultimate what could have been story. Very good, very well done, very grassroots. Not a lot of production value in that one, but still very cool. Like they go around
because of the story.
Yeah, because of the story. Like they go around with him in his hometown in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and kind of like just put a camera on him while he's driving, and he's just kind of like talking about his memories. Very simple. You would like this one. I want to bring this one up. This is on my list now. The Two Escobars. Very good soccer story. Yep. Again, another one that I had no clue about. It is about the rise of Colombian soccer in the 80s and how these drug cartels, the Medellin cartel and the Cali cartel, and I watch a lot of drug Netflix shows like Narcos and stuff, so I know about these cartels, owned these soccer teams in Colombia. Yep. And these basically drug bosses are making these decisions, and if their teams didn't win, it set off like a chain reaction of things in that country in that time. Oh, yeah. Like, unfortunately, like refs, getting killed.
South American
games.
Soccer was like really different.
Yeah,
it really was back in the day.
So the captain of the Colombian national team was a guy named Andres Escobar. Mm-hmm. Okay, obviously the number one drug kingpin in the world at the time, Pablo Escobar. No relation, but they are connected through this team in this. Basically this sport. Mm-hmm. Pablo Escobar, notorious for like loving soccer, building soccer fields.
There's old footage of him playing street ball.
Yeah. In El Barrio. So El Barrio in Spanish, the neighborhood, right? Yep. He built soccer fields in El Barrios neighborhoods, named after him, still like in a way a hero to a lot of people for those reasons. Mm-hmm. But Andres Escobar was the captain of the national team, and he struggled with this idea of basically Pablo kind of being a face of his country, so they wanted to make it about soccer. Pablo goes to jail. The national team used to go visit him in jail and play soccer, and Andres really struggled with that internally because he didn't agree. Like he kind of saw the bad side of it, but a lot of people didn't see it. So the two Escobars and how they're connected, and ultimately, just a very interesting story. You need to watch that. As soccer, you love soccer, you would love that one. The Two Escobars, very good. June 17th, 1994. That's the OJ one. Very good, about the O.J. Simpson chase and all that stuff, the finals, NHL, all that type of stuff. Everyone, that's been done so many times. Mm-hmm. Bad Boys documentary.
The Pistons.
Of the Pistons. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. The production value in that.
So good.
That's another story, like, it was interesting. Like I knew about the Pistons, but I didn't realize like how good they were. And to see like the young, in my brain, when I think of Dennis Rodman, I think of the Bulls, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, you don't think about Pistons, Dennis Rodman.
I don't, just based on when I was born.
Yeah.
And so when you see the young Dennis Rodman coming up and like, oh my God, Chuck Daly and Isaiah Thomas.
Bill Lambier.
Rick Mahorn. Hampton, legend, right? Like,
Joe
Dumars, Lake Charles, where I worked in Louisiana. He's Lake Charles legend, McNeese State. John Sally. So these characters, and then Scottie Pippen's in it, Michael Jordan's in it. They talk about those battles, and for that 2-year window of time after Magic and Larry, before MJ took over, like these bad boy Pistons, man, and they represented like rough and tough, and they wanted to hurt shit.
But they were also good.
Oh, they were great.
Isaiah Thomas is one of the best ever. Joe Dumars was at the time one of the best two guards ever. Yeah.
No, it's just the production value so good. So Bad Boys, check it out. If you want to go big picture, I don't consider this a 30 for 30, although technically I guess it is under that umbrella. Would be The Last Dance.
Of course.
That's a marquee one in the last 5 years.
Past. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Because you said you ended up watching it later, years later.
Years later.
Because it came out
when it came out.
2020, it was coming out during peak COVID. I remember I was getting home from work every night at WFB in Baton Rouge. I think new episodes dropped on Sunday nights. And it was like 8 Sunday nights. They would do a Last Dance episode. Yeah. And then Scott Van Pelt would come on live on SportsCenter. Then they'd discuss it like for like an hour. Yeah. It was so cool. So cool.
That was for me, so I wasn't working. I was still in college, during the time that The Last Dance came out. And that was peak COVID, right? And I remember I was living in an apartment in Boston. Yeah. Full on. We're not diving into the personal life of James Casado here, but like I was just like so when COVID kind of like stripped broadcasting away in terms of the curriculum, because it's all a hands-on college curriculum.
Yeah.
I was in a very interesting space of like, wow, this is my entire identity, right? Because soccer, I stopped playing soccer.
Right.
And then it turned into just broadcast. And I'm sure there's a moment in everybody's career that does this for a living. This consumes you
for sure.
completely. And we talked about the off days of it, right? But I feel like every day sometimes is an on day in this business.
Right.
So I was like, I am not touching sports, anything in 2020.
Yeah,
I
so
just
you were
let
just
it
removed.
ride.
Right.
Yeah, I watched in 2022, right before I went to grad school.
Yeah, I think it was 8 or 9 episodes.
Yeah.
Crazy. The end of episode 7 remains a clip that I will go back to once a year and watch. It's Michael Jordan talking about like leadership and like his mentality. And it's like he starts almost shedding a tear. You're like, this is some intent. It's the end of episode 7. You're like, wow, they got a lot out of him, you know, and that was a powerful.
And you want to talk about production value.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
next level.
And the stuff that they found too, that we have never seen.
Yeah, they did a great job. I mean, who would have thought in 1998, the Bulls' final run, it's like they had a film crew following MJ around to just kind of document the last season. Like these people had all behind the scenes access, and for them to hold on to that footage for so long, it was basically kind of like, wow. And then years later, that's what kind of made it so cool too. Everyone was seeing this stuff because we've all seen the Michael Jordan clips off the game,
right?
Every dunk and every lay and all the highlights, but the behind the scenes stuff, none of us had ever seen. Like him playing quarters with the security guards. We're like, oh my God, like, you know, it just showed who MJ was in a lot of ways. So,
and I walked away from that experience, and one of the first things I thought of was how good is LeBron's going to be?
Yeah, LeBron's going to have to make one down the line.
He's going to have to.
I think they did. There was a tweet out there that I think
now that he has his own production company.
He has a crew, I think, following him around in these last few years. Talk about another random documentary, but in that same sort of context, Kanye West had a crazy good 3-episode documentary on Netflix that dropped a few years ago. The thing about that documentary, Kanye West, when he was a nobody, like in the streets of Chicago, like an upcoming producer, had a guy following him around every day, just documenting his life. And I told my little sister this, who's 24, 22, when I told her this. I said, the thing that was so different about that, which makes it so grassroots and organic, is when that happened, like when you had someone following you around with a camera back in the day, it wasn't to post on social media. It was literally just to archive the moment.
Right.
And to like just put a tape away and just say, oh, we recorded today.
Someday.
It wasn't for clout. It wasn't to, hey, let's go IG live.
Right.
It was literally for preserving history. And I think there's something tangible and you could feel it in that documentary. It's not like today where everyone just has a phone and you may be documenting stuff, but it's all to post immediately. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't sit. Like that's what I loved about The Last Dance and even the Kanye West documentary to a degree. It's like, wow, when they were filming this, it was just for archival purposes.
Yeah.
You didn't know it was going to turn into, what it turned into. So as I continue sort of the list here, 4 days in October, Boston Red Sox coming back from 3-1 down, or is it 3-0 down in the ALCS? 3-0.
3-0,
yeah.
Best
3-0.
comeback in baseball history.
Right.
Yeah.
That very, very good. Requiem for the Big East. Oh, man. Great documentary. Well, the rise of it and then the fall, right? Like Jim Boeheim, John Thompson, Lou Carnesecca, Rick Pitino's in there.
I remember watching that as it dropped and I was a kid.
Yeah. It says it came out in 2014. 2014. So 10 years ago, 11, which is crazy to think how much time's passed.
Yeah, it was 15, 16.
Yeah, right. So those are just kind of a few. More recently, I will recommend, I think I said this to you in the office, or maybe you were off that day. ESPN just dropped one called Empire Skate that is pretty interesting.
You did tell me about this.
Man, that is about the rise of the New York City skateboarding scene in the 90s, about kind of like a group of rebellious kids. And what was born out of it was the clothing brand Supreme, which is a multi-billion-dollar clothing company now. Sneakerheads love it. They have multiple collaborators. Billions and billions of dollars.
I used to collect Supreme.
Right. Yeah, Supreme is huge. And I knew about Supreme. I didn't really know about Supreme, though, until I understood the documentary. The documentary is like an hour, maybe, and literally it's about how Supreme was birthed in the streets of Manhattan and every borough of a group of kids that were skateboarders that were, again, documenting all these things, kind of their daily life. But then, like, a businessman came in and kind of saw this real, raw, organic group of guys and was like, I'm going to open a clothing store and you guys kind of run the front counter, and, like, what it became. And he had the vision, but these guys were, like, making it happen every day. Crazy.
Being a New Yorker,
yeah,
I actually got to like see the rise of Supreme firsthand.
Right.
And I remember when I used to work at Nike.
Yeah.
And I remember the amount of collabs that Supreme and Air Max would
collabs,
do, and how those shoes would be going for like $700.
Yeah, it kind of birthed the sneakerhead culture in a way. It was already kind of there, but it was next level.
But Supreme kind of upped it a level because, you know, it was kind of like Supreme, and then Louis Vuitton came along and started doing stuff.
Right.
I mean, it was like, and then all luxury. Like, I remember after that, then the big thing was Dior. Because then Dior partnered with Nike on a Jordan.
Yeah.
And that went nuts. But it was all because Supreme kind of started the whole thing off.
It was crazy, man. I didn't know about the Supreme story. Again, I'd heard the brand, but when you hear these stories of these kids, first of all, it gets into the raw skateboarding stuff. Like, these kids were rebellious kids, often from broken homes, that just wanted to skate all day. That's all they wanted to do. And the thing about New York that was different than California, because they talk about, like, in the 80s, the scene for skateboarding was California. They had the vert ramps. They had the Tony Hawk was the poster child with the long golden hair. They had all the skate parks, or the infrastructure was already there. Well, in New York in the late 80s, New York was a rough place in the 80s, right? It was not pretty. It was not pretty in a lot of ways. It was a concrete jungle. And these kids were birthed out of that. And they're like, we didn't have any skate parks, bro. We literally skated the streets, like almost getting hit by cars, boards getting broken by taxi cabs, just grinding, jumping out of staircases, whatever you can find, and just skate all day. And the cool thing about that was none of these guys, it's not like up there pro athletes. They are pro skateboarders, but it's not like Michael Jordan, who's media trained up. These guys are kind of like raw and real. And when you see them across camera, they're just talking about growing up with their buddies and what, you know, kind of what they believe in. And then some of the guys become, you know, when they become men and they can't skateboard anymore, a couple of them turned into New York City firefighters. But it's all like, it's about the raw skateboardiness, but then it's like this birth of Supreme that really started like resale culture and guys buying like $10,000 worth of gear at the store, right? Because there was an original location. Now there's locations all over the world. Yeah. This is like boutique premier retail. And then guys were coming in buying like 10 racks of clothes, and then they'd go to Asia and sell it, like resell it for like 25 grand.
Resale culture really took a boom with Supreme.
And that was it. Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that story. Like, you hear about sneakerheads and how people buy the shoes and like resell them for crazy amounts. So Empire Skate is a more recent one that I recommend. I think you would like it. If it's only an hour, it's pretty simple. So very, very cool stuff. That's kind of my short list. I'm sure there's others that I was missing.
I'll throw a quick one out here real quick. That's not a 30 for 30. It's a stadium doc.
Stadium. Yep. Stadiums make some good ones.
The Rose That Grew from the Concrete.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever watched it. It's Derrick Rose's documentary.
I've heard of it. I don't think I ever watched it.
It was, so, I mean, I think the reason why I liked it so much is because it was in the middle of his playing career. Well, kind of on the back end of his playing career.
Right.
And I think at that point, he was either in Detroit or Minnesota.
Yeah. Right.
And it chronicled all of his injuries.
Okay.
And then the best moment of the whole documentary, and they pulled a lot of people for this documentary to interview, because I mean, he played with Hall of Famers throughout his entire career. But I think the best part of the documentary is him, and the most emotional is him getting the phone call that he was traded from the Bulls to the Knicks.
Oh yeah, I've seen that clip.
Someone got that on camera.
Yes.
And it's like such a powerful moment.
Yes.
And then the press goes crazy over the Knicks transaction, and then Carmelo and Porzingis and Joakim Noah comes with them to the Knicks and everything like that. So it's a great watch because it's also the rise and the fall and the ebb and the flow of Derrick Rose. It's a great documentary.
Yeah. I've seen that clip of him when he gets the call and like his agent calls him. It's like they did it. And he's like in shock. He can't believe. He's like, for real? Like this?
BJ Armstrong, I think is his
name.
Yeah.
Former Bulls player. That's right. I do. I want to see that one too eventually. Jordan Rides the Bus, honorable mention for 30 for 30 about his 2 years in baseball.
Okay.
So good. Production value is incredible. Terry Francona. It's awesome. Just, I mean, I'm a nut for this stuff. I could do 4 hours.
You really could. I could give you the floor, give you the mic, and then you just let you riff.
Yeah, and there's other ones. You know, Untold is doing, you know, their thing with sports docs on Netflix. Untold does some good ones. You know, they did Johnny Football, they did the Manti Te'o, they did Swamp Kings. I missed there's a couple that I'm missing that they've turned out okay. So there's a whole host of them, but I kind of go back every once in a while and try to, you know, just find some that I like and share it with friends and family. But I love it. So we only got a couple more minutes here. I guess we could just finish it up with the conversation. Do you want to get into soccer stuff? We don't have time.
I mean, I had stuff queued up for the soccer stuff. We were going to talk about the CONCACAF Gold Cup and how the U.S. lost to Mexico 2-1. We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, we got 2 minutes. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to do it justice.
I mean, I can give a 2-minute hate watch.
Yeah, let's just call it up. Let me hear James. I just spilled it out. James, put it on me. What's going on with the U.S. men's national team?
So they just lost 2-1 to Mexico in the CONCACAF Gold Cup final.
Yeah,
it was basically Mexico's A team against the United States C team. Mauricio Pochettino is the new manager of the United States men's national team. He was a legendary manager at Tottenham, even though he never won a trophy with Tottenham. He was a manager at Chelsea for a little while in the English Premier League, so he has a very storied managerial career. Came to the United States. That was
a big hire.
It's a big hire. Well, it was maybe the most like poster-worthy hire that the United States has ever had.
Okay.
Outside of maybe like Bruce Arenas, but that's because Bruce Arenas had all of the backing in the United States soccer system when it was still kind of fresh and new.
Got it.
I'm looking at the clock while I'm doing this.
I think we have a little bit. We're going to talk about soccer. We have a little bit of plus time because of the way we hit the breaks.
Okay, cool. So what I will say, and this is interesting because I saw that on your cheat sheet, you wrote down World Cup qualifiers. Well, because the United States is a host nation, they don't play in the World Cup qualifiers.
Oh, they're in it.
So because they're already in, it's them, Mexico, Canada. They're already in because North America hosts the World Cup.
Oh, okay.
So in 2026.
Yeah.
So the biggest gripe with the United States soccer system right now is you just played a ton of MLS guys in your major regional/continental tournament that matters a lot.
Yeah.
It's the last major tournament that you'll play in before the World Cup in 2026. You have 2 more opportunities now to roll out your A squad in a friendly, and I believe September.
Yeah, September. I heard that on the broadcast.
With Korea
and
with Japan. Those are the last 2 opportunities that you have to roll out your best team under Pochettino on a field, your best starting 11. You did not get an opportunity to do that because of a lot of reasons. You had players who were injured. Your best player, Christian Pulisic, said, I'm good. I'm not going to do it.
Interesting.
Because he's pretty injury prone too. So he wanted to rest up, and he's been playing really well at the club level in Italy.
Okay.
So give him an opportunity to heal up. You have a ton of other guys, Gio Reyna, Anthony Robinson, Weston McKennie, who are all premier guys who should all be starting fixtures for the United States come the World Cup next year. You have this opportunity in 2026. I think a failure is anything less than a World Cup quarterfinal appearance. So you get through the group stage, you win a knockout round game in the round of 16, and then you get to the quarterfinal. If you could do that, success because you're on home soil.
Okay.
Anything less, I would say you sack Mauricio Pochettino, even though he just got the managerial position. You get rid of him.
Dang, that's rough.
And then the United States Soccer Federation takes a very deep and hard look in the mirror about what to do with the branching of American soccer. I could go on forever, but the MLS needs a relegation and promotion system, which they're working on in the minor leagues and USL Championship and USL 1. But the thing that separates the United States from Europe is that there is no punishment for being bad, and there's no reward for being really good in the lower levels like there is in the English system. Wrexham is a prime example of that. They've won 3 titles in 3 consecutive years and have gone up 3 levels in the English soccer system.
Very interesting to see how that dynamic impacts team building and kind of culture around the sport, I guess.
It makes fans care because there's actually something to care about, right? There's no stakes for a team that's at the bottom of the MLS. So if they're terrible, fans aren't going to show up and rally. If there is a team that's in the lower levels of like USL Championship, USL 1. Now, USL Championship and USL 1 are adopting a promotion relegation system here starting in, I think, 2028.
Okay.
But it's not in conjunction with the MLS.
Okay.
And so it's terrible because you want to be able to support your team if they're at the top of the USL Championship and now they have an opportunity to go to the MLS. You're going to come out in droves to support it because the MLS is the top flight American soccer league.
Right.
I'll give you an example here before we wrap. Landon Donovan, who's one of the biggest American soccer players of all time.
Yeah, superstar. I know that name.
Who had a terrible, terrible take last week, but whatever. He was he bought a team in San Diego. He bought a USL team in San Diego. And the MLS was looking for an expansion team, and Landon Donovan came forward and said, I have a team already in San Diego. You want to get a market in the West Coast? Let's do it. And then some other buyer came forward and said, why don't we just start an entirely new club in the MLS for San Diego? And the MLS said, how much money? So it's buyers. It's whoever is the highest bidder. And that's the thing with the American soccer system. If you're a USL2 team, take Lionsbridge and take Virginia Beach United, for example, they don't fall into the umbrella of the promotion relegation system. But they could get into USL1 and then get qualified for the promotion relegation system by paying to get up into USL1.
Okay.
So if they paid a lump sum amount of money, they could go up from USL2 to USL1.
Interesting.
But that's not feasible because
Yeah.
USL2 is considered pre-professional soccer. So a lot of these teams don't have the financial backing to be able to make that jump into the promotion relegation qualified.
Wow.
So it's a top-down top-down issue, which is why you see the United States players that represent the USA in the World Cup are all currently playing in Europe. You don't really see a lot of them that play in the MLS because it's not something that's bred and taught when you're a baby. Christian Pulisic is split nationality German. So he moved to Germany when he was a baby, started playing soccer in that system, and then made his debut in the Bundesliga for Borussia Dortmund when he was 16 years old.
I remember his
name.
Name.
So it's way deeper than just you can't. It's so hard to be bred in the American soccer system. Come up through that. Clint Dempsey played at Florida. You don't have a college system in Spain.
No, it's not how it works.
You get brought up through
other sports too. That's not how it works.
You get brought up through U12 Barcelona, U14 Barcelona, and then you make your debut at the big club if you're a super kid.
You're pro pretty early,
you know.
And they get you on the train. Right?
World Cup quarterfinal. Total disaster in the Gold Cup, not beating Mexico. I think it was Mexico's 10th Gold Cup championship. USA was going for their 16th. They didn't get that. Now you don't play in a major tournament before the World Cup. Yeah. I've gone past my time.
Yeah, we got to get out of here. All right, thanks for watching Sportswrap Overtime. We will see you next time.